We'll call the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting to order. Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
We're going to be in the hot seat, both of us. Back and forth. Okay, there's a second. Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, also approval of the minutes from November the 8th. You had a time to look over them.
Yes, ma'am. I'll make a motion we approve.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Any discussion on those? I didn't see any additions or corrections. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, so now we're down to unfinished business, and we're here today to discuss and help determine which way we need to go with our subdivision development, with subdivisions and including mobile home parks. So with that, Derek is here. Thank you for being here. And I have a lot of questions, and I know Heath, you can help answer some of those. But I guess the main question is, what way are we going to encourage development without it being a burden on our citizens and our county resources? So with that, let's just kick it off. I guess we could start with our questions, or we need to have Derek
Yep.
weigh in? Okay.
Yep.
So that is my main question, is how can we encourage development without it being a burden on our citizens? My other questions are, do we let developers start building prior to putting in the roads? What determines HOA fees? How do we know that'll cover future maintenance? And we don't want to encourage or discourage subdivision development and encourage mobile home parks without them being held to the same standards, right? So how are we going to do that? And that's what we're here to discuss. So where do we need to go? Go to Derek? I just asked a lot of questions, so I know that we need to.
I'll probably go to Derek about how the process works under our current
Right.
ordinances and policies. And then maybe that'll lead to some questions and proposed solutions
Okay.
for those issues.
And that's what I was talking to Tim about earlier. Where are we currently? So tell us about that, Derek.
Okay, currently, what people do is they get a preliminary plat. And they get a surveyor to go out there and cut it up, however they want it cut up. And then that preliminary plat comes to me to make.
Could you speak up here to the mic so he can,
Or you just sit at that end
Yeah,
table
just
where
get
you got a
out.
microphone.
Yeah, join us.
Cody can pick it up?
You can sit in the middle. if you want to. You can sit in the middle.
You can be the man of the hour. Okay, you start back over.
Okay, so the way this works currently is they'll get a preliminary plat, they'll get a surveyor to survey it off, however they're wanting to subdivide it. Preliminary plat comes to me, then I will either approve it or deny it, and then tell them what it's gonna have to be to follow our current ordinance.
Which is what? Like, how do you determine if you approve it or deny it?
Well, if they show a road, if there's no new road that has to be built, then it's exempt from our subdivision ordinance. But where they have to build a road to get to the back of the property, then that road has to meet DOT specs, 6 foot right of way. And then I'll explain to them that maybe their engineer can come up with a different layout of the road and the drainage, and we could do a variance on the right-of-way. Might can go to 55 feet
Okay.
or something like that.
But they have to have an engineer involved in.
Oh, absolutely, yep.
And that's
And-
something y'all have to approve. I mean, we've got one in place right now that
Right,
y'all
I remember that.
approved.
Yeah,
Did the, was it
With the
curb gutter
variance.
system?
That's correct, Valley Gutter.
right, with the, yeah.
And then, after all the preliminary plat, after all that's approved, then they can start doing their site work, putting their water, sewer, power, putting that in. And then they can start building after all the site work is approved. And all the site work has got to be engineered. I mean, it's not like they just go out there and take a tractor and push it up. Once that happens and they're finished with their site work, then we will start issuing permits to build homes. And we, Jim and I, have discussed that it's okay to build prior to paving a road. But then there's guidelines in here, if they decide to do that, then they have to get, let's see, a surety performance bond, an escrow account, or a letter of credit that the county will hold, and they cannot withdraw that until it's released by the county.
Which would be at what time? Once the roads were completed?
Yeah. Once construction's finished, and we would not release it until all is said and done.
You said, put a surety bond, a letter of credit, and there's one more item.
Escrow account.
That's right. That makes sense. Okay. So just remind me, what is it about 4 houses being built? Is that when the paving has to be in? Is that still, or no?
You can build 4,
Okay,
but when you build the 5th one, it's a subdivision.
that's right, okay. So you can build the 4 and not have to do all of that,
Correct.
but that
As
5th,
long as no new road has to be built.
okay. And how do we determine bond amount, surety bond? Is it based on what's going in there? Is it based on?
It's based on the cost of what it takes to build the road plus 25%.
It's 125%. Okay,
Mhm.
that's helpful. Okay. And right now, what is our, tell me about mobile home parks.
If you put more than 2 mobile homes on a parcel of land, it is considered a mobile home park.
Does it matter how big that parcel is?
Sir?
Does the size of that parcel matter? Or is it whether it's
It
1 acre or
does.
10 acres?
It's got to be at 2 acres or more.
4 or more?
Yep.
And more than 2, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So if you put 4 on 2 acres, it's not considered a mobile home park? It's got to be 4 acres or more than 2 mobile homes? Is that,
We won't give you permits to put 4 on 2 acres of land.
okay.
We'll only give you permits to put 2.
2 on 2 acres of land, so 1 per acre. Okay,
And that's where there's some verbiage that we need to get right. Because currently, you just got to have 10,000 square feet per mobile home. So it doesn't coincide with the 4 acres.
So that's for any new, or if somebody wants to have a mobile home park, but current mobile home parks, they're stacked in there, right? Because it's 10,000 feet. So this wouldn't apply to anything existing. They would be grandfathered in. It's
Right.
just anything moving forward, right? What about mobile homes that are uninhabitable? Do they, I mean, I see mobile home parks and there are clearly some that are, have vegetation growing in it. Is there any,
Since we don't have, since we put a moratorium on our,
Unfit dwelling.
the what?
Unfit dwelling.
Unfit dwellings, that knocks that out of the park. And I think I got about 17 or 18 right now that I've had complaints on, and there's just nothing we can do about it.
yeah, that's what I was talking to Tim, because in the gateway going into Chirral, I think there are 9, either 8 or 9 on the right. And I see 3 that are inhabited, and I don't know really the quality of life there, but the others are clearly not. And it disturbs me that they can just be there and it just doesn't seem safe. But Tim said there's no recourse for that at this point. All right, so what do we need to do?
So if we're looking at going the HOA way, one of my questions is how do we hold the developer to making sure he sees the job through?
This is on subdivisions.
Because if not, if he pulls out and leaves after the last home, how do we hold him accountable?
Yeah, I think it would be similar to what we have now, is we would have to have some requirements. In other words, if the HOA is going to take over maintenance. Do this before Cody gets me. If the HOA is going to take over maintenance of those roads, or if the HOA is going to be responsible if there are any problems with those roads, then I think it would be a similar mechanism. You'd have to have a bond, escrow account, letter of credit, something of that nature, because otherwise, the reason those things are there is in the event with the developer as it currently stands, the developer goes out of business, the developer goes away. That's there to protect the county from having to step in and pay for those things. So I think with an HOA, you'd have a similar mechanism. In the event the HOA didn't do what they were supposed to do, the HOA became insolvent, whatever circumstances where they were not able to do that.
Yeah, and I'm not real familiar with HOAs, and thankfully so. I mean, I know that they serve their purpose, and that's a good thing. So, but so the HOA is a separate entity, right? And it has a board.
Yep.
And it's governed by that board, and you're a member of that HOA while you're a part of that subdivision.
That's right.
But your responsibility or liability goes away if you move out. But if you move in, you become a part of that.
That's right.
And that, Heath, correct me if I'm wrong, but the HOA is the governing body of the enforcement.
Right.
And we wouldn't have anything to do with the HOA, is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, there would be a couple of ways to do it. One, you could have a situation where the developer builds a road, the county's not involved in the process. The HOA says, we're gonna be responsible for this road, essentially a private road. Again, I think there would be a need to have some type of mechanism in place if that HOA becomes dysfunctional, defunct, bankrupt, whatever you wanna call it, we're to a point that they're not able to meet their obligations.
Yeah, then what do we do? What, I mean,
Because otherwise, again, you can say, well, the HOA is responsible, but what's gonna happen is you're gonna have citizens coming up here who say, well, we live on this road and it's in the county and it's unsafe and you can't get ambulances and school buses in there, and it's gonna fall back on the county to take care of it. So that's why I say the HOA is probably a good concept, but there would need to be some protections in there. And I don't mean protections necessarily for the county, but for the citizens that are living on that,
Right.
on that road and members of the HOA.
I guess that's what I meant about burden to our citizens later when I opened up, because we do want to be mindful of them with that.
I mean, HOAs do work. And Mary, you're as familiar or more familiar with this than I am. In the county, we have very few. You know, the ones I can think of are pretty small pieces of property, essentially townhouse type situation. So very limited really in what they have to take care of. And fortunately, you have some responsible people that are doing that. So I don't know that there've been any problems with the ones we have, but if you're talking about having a subdivision with a road where the HOA is gonna be taking care of that, you know, that's very expanded, can be very costly.
Yeah, and I mean, projected maintenance.
Right.
How do you project that maintenance and costs, especially today?
Yep.
Also, in our subdivision ordinance, it refers to the county adopting the roadways in the subdivision ordinance.
So that would be something that we would need to take out, remove.
And that's kind of the purpose of looking at this
Mhm.
is, you know, any new roads would not come into the county system.
I mean, I don't see us being able to afford to take on those roads in the future. We don't, I mean, projected costs and other, yeah,
So it's about protecting the county for future costs, but also the citizens.
right.
That's where the balancing act comes in.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, while we brought in the mobile home parks is to kind of make them follow the same guidelines also.
Absolutely. I mean, citizens are citizens and responsibilities are a road is a road. So,
So right now, if someone brings in a handful of mobile homes and it qualifies as a mobile home park, they just basically create a dirt road. At this point in time, the county's been responsible for that, right? It doesn't come over to the county. At what point does it become a county road?
Actually,
They have to request it?
On the
actually,
mobile home park?
actually, in mobile home parks,
Never?
never.
At that point, it's just about protecting the people that live on that road and making them maintain a certain
Right.
level.
right.
And that's where
That's what I was saying.
And that's
yeah.
kind of what you end up with if we don't do something about it, is what Ms. Anderson was saying.
Well, that's what, when we met last time, when that came up, I got a little confused because it made it sound like, to me, I thought that we were actually keeping up grading some
Right.
of these dirt roads that weren't really dirt roads, right? That makes me feel bad.
We're only taking care of the ones that are currently in our system, like
correct.
the
And that are up to
subdivisions that we've already accepted. Right. And so can they also, I mean, I just don't know, but when can a developer, or some of those impact fees, are they used for paving roads or? What are the impact?
Unless the town
Yeah, I mean,
falls in a municipality that's
Okay.
got impact fees. That,
So the impact fees have nothing to do with the roads, okay.
I mean, if the county wanted to explore that, I mean, we could do that, but there's a very specific, you know, statutory requirements to do impact fees. You have to get a study done, and you have to show that really dollar for dollar, every dollar that's being brought in on impact fees is being spent on
Right.
whatever
Gotcha, I understand.
infrastructure, service, et cetera, is being paid for with those impact fees.
Right. So what do you suggest that we do, Derek? I mean, is that a fair question, or that's not a fair question to do?
No, that's a fair question.
I mean, the look, I was like, maybe that wasn't fair. Right.
It's just not an easy answer.
I mean, but I mean, Derek's the one who has to deal with this.
Sure.
Right,
Day in
it's
and
gonna
day
fall
out,
in his
so.
lap, whatever we choose to do.
I like the idea of HOAs. And if anybody buys a house in an HOA, they know that they have to pay the HOA dues and that kind of stuff up front. They know that, they know they have to do that. And I do think that we need to go through the subdivision ordinance and the mobile home ordinance front to back and clean it up. Because more times than not, it's left up to us to decipher what this means. And that's why I have to go to Heath all the time about it, because it's not,
Cut and dry.
no. There's loopholes everywhere. For instance, I'm gonna throw this out there, flag lots.
Yeah.
We highly discourage flag lots. But there's nothing in here that says you can't do a flag lot.
So a flag lot, if you have a piece of property, and you want to build something behind you, you could cut out a driveway, like on the right side, to go all the way down and over. And so it looks like a flag. There's a lot in the back. It's kind of a lot behind a lot. Is that a good way to describe it?
We did, there's,
No, this is just in general. Flag lots in general are discouraged. It's not really an HOA. It's more of
No.
it's just not best practice.
we had a developer come in, he bought 75 acres. And I think he's got 12 flag lots on it. I had to approve it because everything was 5 acres or more. And although I tried my best to get him not to use the flag lots, he didn't have any choice.
So tell why flag lots are not best
So
practice.
there's that many driveways sitting out there.
That's right.
Right.
A driveway
No, I just
per
stopped
lot.
for just to help you understand, because that driveway could be very long if you're talking about several acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you're saying a flag lot, think of it, the flag pole is the driveway that connects it to a established state or county or,
Right.
I guess, US highway.
Right.
So, yeah, you end up with driveways that are essentially, that might be
That could be seen
a
as
mile
roads.
long.
They're not roads, but
Right, exactly.
but they could appear to be roads
Yep.
because they're so long going
Yep.
in. Yeah. That's a
But-
good example.
But that's just one idea. And I'd have to go back and get a highlighter and highlight the things that I feel like we need to reconsider.
Well, I think we need to do that.
Mhm.
I think that's a great idea.
And I reckon what we need to know from y'all would be, do we match it, mobile home park to subdivision, basically same width roads, the whole works? I mean,
in my opinion, a home is a home, and you do. I mean, I know mobile homes are typically a little smaller, but there's some large mobile homes too. I mean, I would personally, I think it would streamline it, and I think that's best, I think that would be best practice, but, I mean, would there be anything, is there any reason why we shouldn't do that?
I mean, just cost. I mean, it's gonna be.
Cost for the developer.
For the
cost
developer,
For the
whomever.
developer, exactly.
And, typically that's gonna get passed on to the resident. So, I mean, you're looking at a cost issue there.
Is there an engineering reason you wouldn't want those roads to be of the same quality?
Sir?
Is there an engineering reason that just because it's a mobile home park, the roads wouldn't need to be of the same quality?
I would say they need to.
I agree, I think so too.
I agree.
I don't know that, now would that mean could it still be a dirt road? But just held to a certain level? I mean, you still have drainage issues. It doesn't matter whether it's a mobile home park or a high-end subdivision.
It could be a dirt road, but with,
Once you're 4 or more, I mean, after 4, it's a subdivision. Period.
right. But,
You still have to contend with the water issues and everything else, right?
that's right.
I don't see how, I agree with you.
But it can be a currently, it could be a dirt road with gravel on it. Gravel, asphalt, slag. There's several different, it's got to be topped with something.
A mobile home park does not basically have to be
Paved.
Right, but
now, if we go in this route, I reckon that's one of my questions, is we want to require them to start paving them. And if so, why couldn't we just do subdivision/mobile home park
Yeah.
ordinance?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So they basically carry the same guidelines, except mobile home, when you get on the part of that, it could require brick underpinning. Then you pick out what all you want as far as under a mobile home park that mobile home have.
And this is any new mobile home park. This doesn't pertain to existing mobile home park.
Right, this is it, going forward.
what would if we were to put something in place to protect us moving forward, right, where you have to keep this road to a certain level, and you have to have something in place, if you dissolve the mobile home park or subdivision stays there, that it's looked out for the people who live there, is there a reason that crush and run or something, some kind of gravel road would be a bad thing at certain levels? And I'm asking because I don't, I like making everybody pave and do all that, but is there another option?
That was put in place, the paving part, because once it's established that way, then they come to y'all and CTC wanting it paved, wanting them to pave it for them. So that's why that was put back on the developer. And that's what was happening. Some of these roads were getting paved before some that was in the county for years and years and years. So that's why that was put in place, the paving part of it.
I appreciate you guys being here. If there's anything, if you want to introduce yourself and ask any questions or share any thoughts that you have, you're welcome to come forward and do that. Do you mind coming to the mic? We're being videoed, and it's just helpful to be able to hear everybody.
My name's Deborah Carmona, and I try to watch you guys online, but you don't have a good quality recording. It cuts out, so it's hard to follow. But anyways,
Hopefully that'll be taken care of now.
Yes,
really?
yes.
As of today.
As of today. Oh, well, that's good. Okay, we're poll workers, and we're also involved in our local GOP, Chesterfield County. I'm actually the first vice chair of Chesterfield County in the Republican GOP. But this is interesting, this discussion of road maintenance, and I do have a question because I live in a subdivision. It's a dirt road. And right now, with all this rain, it's a mess. And there's a couple of parts that gets flooded out. We're kind of on a loop, and it gets flooded really bad on this side, and the other side is kind of messy too. What is the county's responsibility with it? I know they come once a week, and they grade it. Usually it's on Thursday.
Where do you live?
It's McBee.
Oh, in Macby. Okay. I was thinking that you might live in a section that used to be in my district, and I heard similar, and it was because their developer, when they first bought in, promised that their road was going to be paved. And that's not a promise that's one of the reasons why we're here talking about this, because people have been promised things that were not delivered. And it's because those developers don't have, we never promised that they would have a paved road, but they were told that they would. And so they come often, or have, but now the county maintains with Crush and Run, and they do a great job over there. And I really don't hear the complaints
Our
that I
road
used
is
to.
sand.
Well, and Tim might can help more with,
What road do you live on?
Hillcrest Road,
Hillcrest.
yeah.
The
It-
part that
Lane-
didn't get paid.
Lane got paved, but Hillcrest Road did not get paved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's mostly sand. They may have come through once and put down some kind of rock, and that helped some, but that's all gone now.
Now, that being, I know where you're talking about, and they kind of like, they did this one just about like they did Midway. They've got a big subdivision in there, a lot of traffic, so they paved the main road going in, but a lot of the subdivision actually didn't get paved. So, but what we've been able to do is talk with the CTC, the committee that oversees the paving. They have been fantastic to the county in allowing the road department to put down a lot of stone. And what I'll do is talk to them and see if they'll let us stone that particular subdivision.
That would be helpful.
Until, this is the purpose of this. It is so costly, and we have so many dirt roads within this county, trying to get them all paved is, it's a ordeal, so. But until then, they've been great on letting us put the materials down, Crush and Run, to make it easier for y'all out there. And I'll talk to them.
How much did it cost for that? I guess it's a quarter mile?
To pave,
How much did it cost them to do that?
Hillcrest Lane.
is it $1 million a mile?
That's the resurfacing cost.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't happen to remember, that was probably 2 years
2020.
ago that they paid? I can't remember it right
Yeah,
off.
it was just before
Yeah.
COVID.
We heard from someone, I don't remember if it's SCDOT, but for resurfacing, it's $1 million a mile. So imagine new construction of a road.
I heard
And,
it's like 1.3 million.
for new construction?
For an existing road to be paved.
and just to be clear, he's saying the CTC, that's the Chesterfield County Transportation Committee, and it sounds like it's part of us because it's Chesterfield County, but it's a separate entity. And they receive funds from gas tax. A portion of the gas tax comes back to the CCTC, and then they make determinations as to which roads get paved. And some of that is from recommendations from council, from our constituents who speak up and say, we have a problem here, and then we can go to CTC and say, is there any opportunity here? And they have a list, a priority list, and it usually is determined on by, and you guys correct me if I'm not right, but just where we have the most density, who needs it the most, who is getting washed out, who is having the biggest problems. So just to help, understand who they are and what they do, and they meet, and you are welcome to go to their meetings too. They're open meetings.
Is there a schedule for that?
Yes.
First Monday in every month,
And where do they meet, Tim?
right here.
Okay.
Okay,
I thought so, but I just want to make sure.
okay,
Yeah.
that'd be good.
So I hope that helps.
Okay, thanks.
But we definitely value you coming to us, and we say this, we're better together. We have to hear from you guys and have these discussions in order to know where we need to
I'd
put
like to
emphasis.
know who everybody is.
Sure, because our names aren't up front, right? I don't even know who I am here. I might be Douglas Curtis.
I'm Douglas.
Your name?
Oh, I'm Todd. No, I'm Mary Anderson. I'm the vice chair of county council, and I'm the chair of this committee. I'm sitting in Todd Smallwood's place, and Todd's
I'm
here.
Todd.
Todd.
Right, and then we're missing, Bruce Eddie Rivers is also on this committee, and he wasn't able to be with us today. He sits down there. So typically I sit in the second chair, Eddie sits in the third chair. We just played, we should have gotten our tags right. Sorry about that. And then Tim Eubanks is our county administrator. Heath Ruffner is our county attorney, counsel. And then we have Michelle Stanley as director of finance for the county. Yeah.
And this guy, I know he's not council, but,
Derek Uten, Director of Building Codes.
okay. Right,
Thank you for asking. Yeah.
And thank you both for being poll workers so much.
Oh, absolutely. We value you. I hope that you saw that with our last, well, not our last vote, but we did have a vote involving poll workers recently. Yeah. Thank you. Sure. Thanks for being there.
Now maybe you can go to McDonald's twice instead of once. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is that we need to comb through our existing ordinance and let Derek highlight the things that he feels are needing to be shored up or changed, right? And then we need to come
And then
back
look at maybe
together.
Combining them.
Combining
as
the two.
One until we see, unless we run into a stump that we see that we can't, but I don't see why we couldn't just incorporate both into one possibly.
So we need to have another meeting fairly, how soon could you do that, Derek? What would be your recommendation on how quickly you could get back?
I could probably get it done this week.
Okay. Maybe we could schedule another meeting. I don't know what your week's like next week, Todd.
Well, let's take a look. Now, is that gonna put you in a bind? Just getting it done this week?
I'm
Would
used
would
to it.
be
I
better to
work
push
for
it out
Mr.
2 weeks?
I work for Mr. Eubanks, so I'm not, it's nothing unusual.
You're always in a bind. Understood.
Next week I have
No, 'cause
the
this is gonna
Counties
help-
Connect,
This is gonna help Mr. Eaton
I was gonna
tremendously.
say, we've got the
the Counties Connect
yeah.
Conference next week.
I have a meeting.
I mean, should we do it? Maybe we could do it the following week.
That's what I was gonna say. What about the following week?
26.
I'm clear on the 26th.
I'm clear on the 26th. Can you
I
do
mean,
the
I was just gonna
26th?
say the 26th through the 1st, so.
Okay.
I have something at 10 that morning at my office.
How's your
Tuesday's bad
af-
for me.
How's your
How about
afternoon
Wednesday?
on Monday? Or Wednesday? Yeah, I could do Wednesday. Can you do
Honestly,
Wednesday or is that a
would
hard day?
be
for
good
you?
for me.
Monday or Wednesday?
Let's do
He's-
Wednesday, because he's here already
He's
on
here on
Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's why I said this
Okay.
Wednesday.
Be here whenever
Let's
y'all
do
tell me to.
Wednesday, the 28th at 9 o'clock, and that'll give you
Okay,
a couple
great.
weeks. And can
The
you,
28th.
yes.
Yes,
And
28.
could you get those out to us, that if Todd and Eddie and I, if we could have a copy of your highlighted, maybe next week, then we'll have some time to look at it before we come back. That would be helpful.
And ideally, what I would like to do is have Mr. Eaton go through it, and then he and I get together, and then he and I together will send you maybe a draft of some ideas.
Okay, I think that's a great suggestion. So maybe by next, I mean, you guys, are you going to Counties Connect?
I'm going for
Okay.
just the one day. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But you would have time to go over it
Sure,
next week.
we can do
Okay.
that.
All right, that's a great suggestion. And then if we have it, we can have your notes and your combined notes and your highlights. And then maybe we can move forward with some decisions on the 28th to recommend back to council on the 6th, right?
Yep.
So also on the 6th, if we have some suggestions to make to council on the 6th, we're still gonna have to continue the current moratorium.
Yeah, I mean, it would not come up for renewal until the next meeting.
That's
It
what I
was
thought.
Just renewed at this past meeting.
Okay, so
you've
we're
got
okay.
another month.
Okay, all right. Okay. Anything else? No,
9 o'clock on the 28th.
9 o'clock on the 28th. Let me just make sure I have that. Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, if there's no other business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion.
No discussion? All in favor? Aye.